Good evening. Hello, out there, internet. My name is Jamin, and I interestingly watched The Northman. Uh, it had one of the main character, was played by an actor who also played uh, Eric, Eric in True Blood, the guy of European descent. I think he's just European. um, so he played the Northman. Uh, that was an interesting movie. I was told by someone on the internet that was reviewing it that it was like violent from end to end, and it was like maybe I watched too many violent. It was a rated R movie, but they were blocking off certain things like it was weird. It's interesting. It's other things they were just straight up like, haha, dead bodies. And you're like, oh, okay. Other actors were in it. They're kind of famous. They're not kind of. They are famous, and they did a good job. There really wasn't it was supposed to be a twist, but it really wasn't a twist how they set up the story. There was a time jump. I really would like to know like who raised him and trained him rather than the story plot I got. There's an anime called Vinland Saga. It's very similar to that. It's, there's differences. Like the king was just the king, and he wanted to die in battle, so he made sure he go Valhalla. And a lot of interesting things like that. Slavery was kind of European slavery is kind of different. It's like you're just free workers, to be honest with you. Like you're not really like you're owned, and they're not trying to beat the humanity out of you. They just like you're just on a lesser tier, right? And like how they had it looked like a large village, not a large village, like a large home estate. Like they were farmers with slaves. It was like I'm enslaved by farmers, and it's like it was just work that needed to be done. Beating carpets and making hides and laundry and stuff like normal stuff that you would have to need for a more than 20 people that's living with you. Like you would need legitimate help, and that's all that was. And it was like, this sucks, but it could be worse. And I'm getting off subject, but I'm like, I kind of feel like that's what white people really be thinking of, like what the slave trade was. It's like, you were slaves, but we weren't that bad. It's like, no, that's if you thinking that's the same as American slavery, Jesus Christ. Of course, there's other, like in the Caribbeans and stuff, like in South America as well, brutal slavery stuff like in North America, but they were perfecting it in North America. So it's funny, like if y'all think that if that's what slavery was, or that form of slavery was the same, it wasn't. It really, really wasn't. So I would understand that. It was like, why y'all beefing so hard? It was like everybody had slaves at one point in their culture, so it's like, why y'all beefing so hard? But it's like, oh, it's a difference. It is a difference. So that was interesting to because you're at one point you were in with the slaves. You were just in with the slaves, and they were just chilling. They were not chilling, but they were. Again, it's like you staying in a hostel. Honestly, it's like you staying in a hostel and you gotta work the grounds that's why you stay there for free. Literally, that's it. No one was like, other than don't look me in the eye type of stuff. No one was tripping. Nobody was tripping. They told them stop talking sometimes, but like other than that, nobody was tripping. So I'm like, well, this is opinions come with that perspective of like, okay, it's like wasn't that bad. And it's like, you wouldn't understand. You would have no idea how brutal and consistently brutal it was on a large scale of degrading people until they don't believe that they are damn near the same species. Like, you just wouldn't comprehend that. So I thought that was interesting. But the main character, you see it in trailers, like, I'll kill you, Fenrir. Like, his uncle killed his dad. His dad was the king. He ran off. Time skip, type of deal. And now he's a trained, seasoned warrior, and he was doing his dizzy, and then some guy was like, "Hey, Fenrir, buying these slaves," and he's like, "I thought those slaves were going to like Greenland or whatever, to Iceland." He's like, yeah. He's like, but his kingdom was on so and so. He's like, nah, another king took it, so he ran off. He he killed his brother for no reason, because if he would have waited, that king would have came in there and killed his brother. So it was like, he did that for no reason. And so he was like, all right, bet, I know exactly where he is now. Now again, we don't know what his original plan was. Like, if he still felt like his uncle was still in that kingdom part, what was he going to do? What was he going to do? Was he training, or was he trying to convince the other guys to come with him? Like, because he would have needed a little bit of an army, to be honest with you. So I don't understand what the plan was, but we don't know. We just know that when he heard about this new information, he was like, bet. He faked being a slave, put a branding on himself, and jumped in and with other slaves, and was like, yeah, I'm gonna rock this out. He had, and it's another thing. So it was semi-realistic, but then they also was throwing some mystical stuff in there, right? But then it was kind of like, haha, is it mystical, or is it they just on drugs? But then it's like, but is it mystical? And it's like, just be mystical or be realistic. But it's this so back and forth, because if it was trying to be like, oh no, we're mystical, it was very light-handed. It was very light-handed. It was very, not that it was like so light-handed that you suck, but it was very light-handed. It was very light-handed, which I would have wished it was deeper. That would have been cool, but I guess that would have been another type of movie. I like how it was. It was just certain scenes where like when he talked to some mystics that were there, not there, in the love stars. So that was mystical, and then it was like, yeah, but you don't know if that was there. But I was like, okay, why would he have a vision about that? That was super random. That'd be mystical. Or talking to the dead guy and talking to, stuff like that. I'm like, okay, that was mystical. But then they address it, but they don't really address it. So I'm like, okay, that's weird. She threw some shrooms in people, and I really messed them up. I don't even want to take them shrooms. Them shrooms were not healthy. I enjoyed it, but again, I thought it would be way more like 300 violence. The movie 300. It wasn't 300 violence. It was more. You remember the old 2006 King Arthur movie violence, right? Less cinematic. Which I wish. That's the only thing I can kind of relate that movie to. Like the dialogue was better in King Arthur, and the cinematography was a little bit better. I was like, I like the Northman cinematography, but like, it wasn't the best. It was definitely in the lane. It was definitely in the lanes of King Arthur in terms of that realistic kind of mystical type of deal. I think their score music was better. I think their dialogue was better. Because he did do some old school stuff, and it was like, oh, this wasn't. It was showing you like how real people believe. So it was, instead of like, I can give you an example like, I forgot the name of. Okay, the movie. what's it called, Castiel? Not Castiel, but Constantine, right? Like the movie Constantine, and he's like, and like, oh, he would pray and stuff would happen, like angels pop up or some stuff. Instead of that happening, you would just see him praying, right? And it's like, oh, okay, I'm assuming something's happening, but nothing's happening. It was like that. It was really like people really believe in that religion because it was religion. They were doing things like around fires and screams and I'm an animal now and hunt and stuff like that. But nothing. It wasn't like the great huntress bestowed upon you and she comes from the sky. So it was nothing like that. But they were in the patrol but they had like an old mystic man. He was doing all the mystic stuff, but we don't. It just looked like some old guy just doing some stuff. It's like that's super weird. But it's almost watching like someone, like I said, someone like trying to cast out a demon, like in Exorcist, but you don't see any Exorcist stuff. You just see a girl just sweating in the bed, and they just throwing water on her. Christ compels you, and she's like, okay, this is weird, So, but like something happened, y'all just doing that, but you see them doing the practice of that religion. But then stuff kind of happens. So you're like he got locked up one time and ravens unbuckled him, like Odin's raven. So I'm like, okay, that happened. He did get unbound. That did happen. And they opened the door and ravens did fly out and he was not there. So it's like that happened, But then they'll do another scene where almost like some Elden Ring boss, he had to grab a sword from, he had a whole fight with, but then the fight wasn't real. So it's like, which is it? Mystical stuff is happening or not? So that's the only issue I had with it. Other than that, it's great movie. It was very more dark, somber than super violent action. Now, violent action does happen. But it was very dark, somber, way more than like violent action. And I thought it'd be more violent action and than well, I expected the dark somberness, but I thought it'd be like bam, bam, slice open in 2 parts. Yeah, Yankee niggas. I thought it'd be more stuff like that. Less realistic. It was semi more realistic than I thought. But people did weird stuff. Like the final fight scene. That man had clothes on, and then they did a cut scene, and it was a dark, closer to the volcano, and they were booty butt naked. I was confused. The transitions and scene cuts, I don't like that editor. I don't know who did the edit. I don't like him. And it wasn't horrible, but the little edit cuts were odd. They didn't match up. It's just like the cut, something else is happening. Like they had a scene where somebody was fighting or something, and then it was a cut scene, and then they were having like a festival orgy type of thing. And my thing is like, no one explained what actually was going on. They were just dancing around a fire. This horrible, it was very vibe-ish of like, yeah, have sex type of energy. And it's like, but no one really explained, oh, this is the festival, or this is the blah 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 of this. No one explained anything. They were just doing it, and then that happened, and I'm like, okay. Then it was another cut, and he thought the girl was somewhere, and she was getting licked up. And he was like, oh, well, you already getting licked up. And then turned around, the girl was right there, and he's like, oh, and he was like, oh, you looking for me? And he's like, I don't know where you lost. And he's like, I don't know, only if you looking at me. And then cut scene, and I'm like, okay. It's like, y'all, whoever did this edit, like, needs to really work on, like, visuals in B-roll. Like, I'm not trying to say make this longer, but sheesh. Like, the cutscenes were odd. The cutscenes were odd to me. And I'm saying a lot of it because I did really like that movie, but it was just certain things as a movie goer. I was looking at it and I'm like, something's a little bit off. I don't like this and that about it. Not even necessarily nitpicking. It was just like, it was odd. So, I mean, like I said, I get the major plot twist wasn't really a plot twist. I wish they would have did more for the fictional part, because they painted the dad to be out some horrible guy, and and it just seemed like their culture, and it's like, well, he wasn't really a horrible guy, he was just doing what he do, he wanted to die in battle, he was getting kind of older, they bought and sold slave stuff, like I didn't really see nobody get like super mistreated, so I can't really be like, yeah, I mean, you're a slave, that sucks. First of all, you get they snatch your stuff, kill all the men, and burn the old and babies, and take everybody who's healthy and strong. I'm like, that's kind of horrible. But I didn't really see anybody get like really messed up during this process. I mean, they get yoked around a little bit, but I didn't really see them get like, oh, they coming in here and it's like, oh, I'm gonna step on your face for 2 minutes just cause. I ain't really see them do that. It was just some light servitude stuff. So it's like, oh, now you're servitude forever. I'm like, oh, okay. Because technically, y'all in the same boat that I am. Like, no one's really going anywhere. We're all in this B together. So, it was interesting to me to see that in cinema. But yeah, it was, the battles were pretty cool. The cuts and edits were just weird. There was no build up. It was just like stuff it was like, it was getting close to, like, it was as heavy as alluding to something, but it was like, not. But the Northman, I will give it a 4 out of 5. I will give it 4 out of 5. But if I'm going detail, maybe out of 10, it'll probably get like an 8 out of 10. Purely because like the edit was kind of weird, and I like movies that 10 toes down. So if you're doing some mystical stuff, show me a giant, have him spread some wisdom. I'm like, really go in on this lore so I can get invested into it. But if you're gonna be super realistic, don't do no mystical stuff. Don't even bring it up. Don't show me no visuals at all. Like he kissed was this one chick he was with, and in the wound he's like, oh, I can feel your bloodline in my blood. I'm like, stop it, just stop though. It was a good watch. It just is a little mystical. It's a little bit mystical. So I'd rather them be full mystical or not be mystical at all. That's just my stance on it. But I like to be 10 toes down in my movies. All right, that was me, Jamin. So y'all be safe and go watch The Northman.